So let's start. We'll start from the small intro about how actually this process will go on. And here I should probably add some disclaimer here that all the QA session will start on the end of the presentation, and we'll try to ask and find some questions, and also probably some information will be useful, and you will want to share some your own information about some way that we can boost our productivity from the front end part. So yeah, probably let's start from the beginning, and this will be mostly about the development from the dev side. What does it mean? All the questions and all the recommendations here will be useful for devs or for some stakeholders to understand how their devs are working and which technologies they are using and why, and how to understand more detailedly some processes inside the development process, or just some dev things that can be reached by your dev team. And the first one is probably the most common thing. That's the dev daily routine. That means we have a lot of stuff on our daily basis, like make some coffee, add some code, have a lot of meetings, and this probably is a very small amount of tasks that we can do, but probably the most routine that we have. And we all of us are using some tools, some instruments to make our tasks faster, to add some boost to make those things more productive, and spend less time on some probably common things or not very common, but make it as much with the highest level of quality, but spend very small amount of time. And that's why we'll talk about very popular things, but there are a lot of those popular things that called IDE. That's something that we can call like the editor, but very powerful editors that can provide us a lot of functionality from the box or in-box functionality, and those functionality can help us handle very routine things, but do it with very effectively and make those things happen very fast. Because without those things, developer life looks like just the white paper and the black letters on it. That's probably not the best solution, based on the fact that we have nowadays a very big application, and we need to implement there something very fast, very complex, and that's why IDE help us. There are several ideas that I want to talk about. From that screen, that's brackets, that's the Visual Studio, and something like the Eclipse, but that's probably an item, but that's only the very popular things. But we will talk about something that we can use on as the front-end developers, or just developers that are using mostly the JS, but from the perspective of the all devs that use any technology. So the first one, probably, and the most important to understand which one and what is a criteria to understand which tool you should to use, or which tool will be most suitable for you. I will try to add some recommendations there and some thoughts from my own experience, because I've worked with a lot of tools. I've used them in different situations for different tasks, and each of those tools, each from those tools, and each tool has its own cons and pros. But there are some tools that can be used only in some very specific branch of development, or for some very specific tasks, and that's why we should dive in and understand probably the most interesting ideas that I've worked with and researched, or just heard about something. So yeah, let's start from the very popular tool from Microsoft that's called the VS Code. It's a very popular IDE for now, and it's a very powerful tool. But this tool is very small, but have a very cool extensibility. This means it's easy to config. It have no excessive functionality. This means when you install the VS Code, you actually don't feel something very complex. It just looks like the very well-designed editor with some buttons, with some common extensions, and it just feeling very light. And it's exactly very light. But just because it's very light, we should configure a lot of things, and we should install some plugins, some extensions, because working with this tool should and we should spend there some time to understand which is complexity you want to add to reach your tasks faster, and you should understand the branch of your work, because if you want to run some servers, if you just need to write some small JS code, or you just need to edit some small files, probably VS Code not the best decision here, because that's a fully completed tool that can help you with your development process from 0 to 100%, because it can contain all that you need, and you can just work in this work frame or iframe and not lose and not close it, and you can find everything that you need to be able to develop very productively and without any other tools, because you can include them, but they are not included from the box. It looks like from scratch, it looks like the very good small Swiss knife, because it contains a lot of things, but you need to add a lot of things to make your perfect framework exactly with the things that you need, or for the tasks that you need to solve or issues. And the next one is the Sublime Text. That's a very popular editor too, but this editor is even smaller than the VS Code. From the box, it's just a beautiful editor, because there is a cool font and the great colors. That's probably it. It's very light and it's extremely fast. But the problem with editor that a lot of developers use it just for develop things remotely. I mean, if you have some remote servers, or you have a lot of environments, or you have a very very complex security layer of your application, it's very important to use tools with the minimum on the lowest level, to be able to connect with the low-level protocols, and that's why Sublime Text also have some additional tools that you should use when you're using the Sublime Text. I don't want to say that you always need to use those tools, but very popular is the WinSCP and the Beauty program. This means you can use those programs to connect to your server, but when you're using your server, you can, or just exploring the server, you can use this editor to open files, to edit them, to save them, and just make any manipulation with those files with the system, or just reach all your data very fast. I mean, your files, because there should be some data there, obviously. And the next one is probably the explanation why it's so cool from the development side, and why it's also cool to understand from the business part why this editor is exactly very useful, because it's extremely fast. It's one of the fastest editor in existing and almost the fastest in the world. And it's with the version 4, that is the latest version. It has the highest productivity from the editors, but it's very it's very poor from the beginning, because it don't contain a lot of doesn't contain a lot of plugins, and but you can build, as you said, your own Megazord with plugins. There are a lot of extensions, there are a lot of developers, and the most important part, there is a very cool community, the community of developers that understand their own needs and provide a lot of solutions that can be used for solve some issues, or to help you with solving your problems, or just to complete the task. It's like the very fast Swiss knife. It's not small. I mean, it's very light. It's very fast. But from the perspective of which you of tools that you can add, it's not very small. It's just the normal Swiss knife that can be used for editing something remotely, very fast and very productive from this perspective. There's also one very new editor that's called Z. That's a very newcomer from, I mean, in the editor's world, they're just a newcomer, because it's very fast, and the graphics that can be found in on their side, you can see that the performance, and some metrics that probably we're using to call the editor fast are the most high quality in that editor. Does that mean there is some chart that can show you probably a very small amount of differences there, but it means that it's even faster than the Sublime text. From these charts, you can see that it can be on the first place. After this one will be the Sublime text, and the third one will be the VS Code. It's I know it's probably the synthetic metrics, and some results can be different from on other systems, because it could be used as just like the demarcating part, but the community of that have a lot of a comparison between a lot of editors, and mostly in all the cases it shows a very good results, but it's very young. It's still on beta, and that's why in beta, and that's why you probably should understand that it's actually exists. But using of this editor, it's probably something that we can avoid from for the first time, but we can try to test it. It's like a very fast Swiss knife, because it's even faster than the Sublime text. It's smaller than Sublime text, and the most important thing is very new. I mean, some modules of this editor are built with the new technologies. It should be fast, but nobody know what will be the future of this editor. But sounds very cool. I mean, from the first view. And the next one will be Vim. That's a very not even old, but very mature editor, because it was the one that probably have used by my grandpa to develop something if he was a developer. That's a very small thing. It's almost weight nothing. It's just from scratch. It's just some black window inside the console, and it's extremely fast. That's probably even faster than the Sublime text or Z, but it's not an editor as it is. I mean, it can be used as an editor, but to build editor from Vim, you should spend a lot of time there. You should add some UI, you should add some extensions, and a lot of things that should be provided to build it exactly an editor. It's extremely fast, but it's also extremely hard to understand. I think the community of Vim is very big. It's very huge, and a lot of developers are using Vim because it's so fast, and you even shouldn't use a mouse. You can just use your keyboard to make all the operations there, to write a code, to test code, to switch from one file to another. And that's why it needs a lot of skills. I mean, not even the skills, you need to spend a lot of time to remember some shortcuts, to understand some old-fashioned style of coding to be able to use it. And it's very hard to use Vim from the beginning. It needs some time to adopt and some time to evolve this editor to be exactly something like the editor, like Vim, like the VS Code, or like the Sublime Text, and that's why it's pretty cool. It can be if we need to compare this to another editors, it's something like the Swiss knife, but it's a very small from the beginning. There's probably only a knife, but when you start adding a lot of plugins, a lot of extensions, you start building your own framework, your own editor, your own IDE. It becomes something very huge, something very complex, but extremely fast, because everything that writing for the Vim is it was built from the first view by the very even extremely experienced developers for experienced developers, and that's why that's very cool. But it's hard to understand how to use it from the scratch, and your developers team should probably notice that it's a cool decision. It's of course it's free, but from another view, that's very complex. Complex in case of usability, and it's very complex because you need to spend a lot of time to make your own IDE. The very important thing nowadays is having the already built or pre-built framework that you can just install and use. But it's not free, and it's called the WebStorm. It's a very popular IDE, and there are a lot of free licenses. There are something like licenses for students, some licenses for big companies are called the enterprise licenses and other things. But the very big plus of this IDE is it's extremely usable from the beginning. You can solve a lot of problems even don't know that they're exactly existing. It helps you with a lot of things. It's something like it's very heavy. It includes a lot of for the front-end developers, for the back-end developers, and probably just for the developers. It looks very big. It looks very complex because it includes a lot of modules. You can it's very configurable, but all those modules will be included from scratch, and you will see them. It's called the inbox. That's something cool, but you need to understand why you're using it. I mean, if you are a developer who working with something very complex, and your team is working with something very complex, and you understand as a stakeholder that you will need to work, or your dev team should work with something like the big project. It's useful to even propose them to use WebStorm to avoid some inconsistency of their code, or using a lot of IDE in parallel. Because if your developers will use not the same IDE, they should probably have some issues with the code communication, let's call in this case, when it will be a little bit harder to implement or work together in the same manner and with the same code style. And yeah, that's exactly it does. This IDE is not for free. You should pay for using this IDE, but it contains too much inside, and I think it's worth it when you understand why it's worth it exactly. And the problem is you can lost in features. I mean, you can lost features, and you can also lost in features if you're not using something, or your dev team is not using something. If you will not use a very big amount of features that are already there, but you just from the first you don't know about them, and from the first and from the second you just use a very small portion of these features because, for example, your project is not very big, or your operations or your daily routine doesn't include a lot of things inside, and you should probably understand that it's not worth it, and you can use something other. But if we need to compare it with the previous one, or just with the previous IDE, that's IDEs, you can say that something like the medium speed Swiss knife. Okay, that's a very huge from the beginning. You shouldn't build your own Megazord because you already have your own Megazord. It includes a lot of modules. It includes a lot of things to do, and it has a lot of things from scratch, and you can it's very configurable. You can config everything that you want, and you can even config the configs. So that's probably also the good decision to work with that in case of understanding that the huge tools provide a lot of functionality, and your dev teams will be in the same line, and they will use the same tool, but it's not free. And the cost is dependent on the size of the team and from your needs also. And there is no free version at all. Just student plans or something like that, but it's probably not the base solution based on the complexity. Okay, and I would also talk about some very important plugins that I'm using, or let's call it some add-ons that I'm using for my IDE. I'm using for now the VS Code. I've worked with all the previous IDEs, and I use them for different projects or for the different tasks, and as it's actually my own experience and my own words about them. It should be. I understand that someone can also say that we can use another tools and they can do the same one, but it's something that I've tried. It worked perfect, and I can just share some information about that. If you're talking about some plugins, I can say for 90% that all those plugins should also be existing in any editor that you can choose. It doesn't matter was it just a small Vim or a huge web storm. The second, just for the visual or just for the UI perspective, it's called the Cobble 2 theme. That's a very popular theme that probably that's in use for somewhere the 2 million people now, and this it's just a very common looking theme for developers. The second one is the color highlighting. That's just probably for the front-end developers, because you can see the colors very fast. That's extremely important for some cases. The dot end, that's something that you can that help you to understand your environment files. That's the files that included some environment specific variables and help to manipulate with them already in the correct way. The ESLint, that's a very popular plugin that help you to configure your own code style and the code style of your team, because it adding some rules, and all the team have the same rules how to write the code. It's something like the very cool constraints instrument that can help you, or constraint tool that can help you to write code in a consistent way, and all your team will write a code in that way that you provided. Fig, that's something like additional. It's a specific plugin for a very smart console tool. It was bought by Amazon, and now you can see a lot of information about this, about how the Amazon bought the Fig and how it's started to implement in their own infrastructure. So this probably something that started as a startup, and now it's the part of the very huge company as the Amazon. Exactly, it's a part of the AWS. The Git lens is something that can help you to understand all the changes inside your Git repository. It doesn't matter which repository which Git you're using, like the Bitbucket, like the GitLab or GitHub. It's a very popular extension, and help us to understand who made those changes or not made those changes. Live server is probably for the local development part. This to help you to locally run something similar that you will have on your production server, but run it locally with a very small amount of config and very fast. Pass IntelliSense, that's something that help you to work with your import files, treat your also the very popular thing that help you to write code very consistently in case of tabs, spaces, to format. It's help you to format your code and do it automatically. Shell format the same one, but for the shell scripting, because when you're working on the big project, you need some knowledge about shell scripting to be able to config some part of the CI/CD part of your application. That's very cool to understand and very cool to have this extension. The SVG preview is something that help you to watch your repository icons, for example, and it's also useful because mostly you have a lot of icons and it's a little bit harder to understand which one exactly using and for what proposal. The Tab9 AI, that's probably the only one instrument that I'm using that having AI in its name. That's something that helped me to create some code, but it's mostly for the very small pieces of my tasks. But it's just useful to have some small autocomplete there. And unsaved file that just things that show me when I'm not when I haven't saved something during my development process. So yeah, there are several slides left, and the first one, some conclusion and thoughts. For my task, I'm using the VS Code. That's something very balanced for me, and it's also from the Microsoft, which is the cool to know to understand when the big company are producing and updating some cool feature. It sounds like it will be a standard or just already standard, and you understand that it will not close. It will not be closed, for example, tomorrow, because a great company bought this VS Code and just modified and always updated it. If you need to, but it's free. When you need a very cool Megazord, you can buy the WebStorm. When you need to spend your time coding very fast, you can use Vim. If you need to work with some remote servers on the remote machines, you can use the Sublime Text. And if we want to try something new, that is a cool decision. It's very fast, and it should be very it should boost your productivity probably in all the cases there, but it's very new. And probably, yeah, I will not I'm not using the ChatGPT for my own task. I'm not using it somewhere in the IDE. I don't have any extension, any plugins. I'm not using the Copilot. That's also the Microsoft product, and I don't even feel that I need the ChatGPT. Probably it's only for my tasks, but I'm just trying to ask ChatGPT probably just to generate some regular expressions. That's probably it. So this it sounds not very exciting, but I'm not using ChatGPT, and I don't see the value of the using of ChatGPT now. Probably it can be it depends on your own tasks, but from my perspective, I don't see any reason to use it now, because my tasks are probably a little bit more complex that ChatGPT can solve from the description, because you need to know a lot of context there. That could be a reason. And yeah, that's it. Let's probably start the QA session. If you have some questions, please put it in chat, and I will try to answer them. I see the one question there. Just a second. Okay. For now, I'm not located for now in Austin, but I'm just working. For now, I'm working from Ukraine, and I am communicating with our team from Austin directly, and probably, yeah, if answer the question, for now I'm from Ukraine and I'm working from Ukraine, but I have like a very close communication with our team from Austin. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, thank you too. That was a good question, and thank you for And thank you for your time. And we can probably finish with that webinar. Thank you for your time, for your attention, and also thank you for possibility to share some knowledges and add some probably my own thoughts. But it's very important to have something like a room where I can share my own thoughts and also help you for with your path to find something. Probably you will find your own cool idea. So yeah. And just a second, probably the last minute question. Yep, you can connect me with me on LinkedIn. You can use the Dennis Molin as like in your search input, and yeah, it's we can communicate or we can start the communication. I mean, I can also try to help you to directly connect with Tim from Austin, and we can also start conversation there. Yep. Thank you very much too, and have a nice evening, have a nice day, or have a nice part of the day. It depends where you are. Bye.